Good evening. So this marks the beginning of our live session. We're going live on two platforms, so I might always be shifting my eyes on this other side and also on this other side. So today I wanted to talk about emotional bank and what is meant by emotional bank. So before we start on the emotional bank, again, I'm reminding us of the importance of self-esteem. I'm reminding us that self-esteem is very, very important to us as a people, and again, to you as a parent, to you as an employee. Self-esteem is very, very important. Majorly today, I wanted us to talk about emotional bank. What do we understand when we talk, or rather what would you presume when we say emotional bank, or when we talk about the term emotional bank? I thought this one was very, very timely. Again, welcome those who are joining me. I am going live on two platforms, so once in a while you'll see my eyes shifting. That does not mean I'm distracted, but it means I'm also trying to give attention to the other platform also. So today, as I was mentioning earlier, that today I want us to talk about emotional bank. I thought this would be timely, especially when in this part of the world where our children are on holidays, the short April holiday. So I thought this was very, very important, even as we start interacting with our children. This will help us, be able to interact with our children at a capacity where we know, or that we understand where we are coming from, or we understand what we are doing with our children, or with the people around us, or with our colleagues, or the people that we interact with. Because again, it dictates that the moment we are still alive, the moment that we are living, we will always interact with people. But the question is, when we are interacting with these people, what is the point of us interacting with them? Take a typical example. When somebody steps on your foot, and say give and take, you're putting on a pair of shoes. What would be your reaction the moment somebody steps on you? You have two reactions. You have two outcomes. Either look at it like it was accidental, when you evaluate, or rather when you weigh the possibilities of this person having to have stepped on you. Is it accidental or was it intentional? If it is intentional, then the first question is, what is it between you and this other person that would make him step on you? And then if it's not intentional, then how are you going to work, or rather how are you going to wrap your head around the accidental aspect of this person stepping on you? So let's take the first scenario of this person stepping on you accidentally. So if this person steps on you accidentally, then you as a person, you have it is within your control how to react. But in case you were a tickling time bomb, then trust me, the rate at which you're going to explode on this person is not the rate at which, if you were okay, you'd have talked about it. You could as well say, hey chief, if it's a guy, hey, excuse me, you've stepped on me. And then you would say, okay, I'm sorry, it was not my doing, or rather it was accidental. And then it would be like, okay, I'm sorry and thank you. On the other hand, if you were not okay, if you had a lot bottled, then this person stepping on you, be it accidentally or intentionally, is just a trigger. This is what you are waiting for to blow out of proportion. You'll start hurling abuses, you'll start calling him names, or calling her names. You're not calling her names because you want to, but you're calling her name because subconsciously or in the unconscious part of your mind, you have a lot. There's a lot of emotions that you've literally packed. A lot of emotions that you've not handled. These emotions only look for projections where you can throw them. Where are you, this person has stepped on you. It's easy. You can say, you've stepped on me, and they apologize, and it's done like that. If you have a lot that is already bottled, then this person's stepping on you is just an opportunity for you to explode. So how is this, coming down to our kids? How is this coming down to our children? How is this coming down to us as a people? We have children, or we interact with people. Let me just first take the scenario of children. And as it is, everything in the country is like it's going on the other side. It's financial, it's emotional, it's mental, it's everything. Literally everything is going, things are not okay, for lack of better words. People are going angry. You have children in the house, they want to eat, you want to do bills, you want to pay rent. Maybe your job is not also, giving you enough, because the irony is, as life goes up, your salary, or rather your income, is kind of static. So yes, as a person, you're very much allowed to lose balance. Very allowed to lose balance, because that is what makes you human. So when you lose balance, the question is, how are you going to manage this balance between the people around you and you as a person, so that you don't flip, so that you don't bleed on the people that are not, are not part of this. That's why I wanted us to talk about now emotional bank. So emotional bank on a layman's language is the repressed emotions, the unexpressed emotions, the unfinished businesses. So why do we say unfinished businesses? These unfinished businesses would not only have started 2 years ago, a minute ago, 3 years ago. Some are as old as you at 3 years, you at 1 year, you at 5 years, you at 20 years. This literally means that anything that is happening to us today, every reaction that is showcasing on us today, did not start today. These are things that are coming from a point of what we kept. Again, as I mentioned, I'll keep shifting my eyes because we're going live on 2 platforms. So if you see me shifting my eyes, it means I'm also trying to balance the attention. Nonetheless, as I was saying earlier, remember that occasion, or remember that particular incident that happened when you were only 3 years. Maybe you wanted to sing, or maybe you wanted to do a gymnastic move. You wanted to do something, something creative for either your parent, your uncle, your siblings, and somehow somebody told you that you can't do that. No, don't do that. You're not capable of doing that. That is not meant for people like you. Or you are an orphan and you're staying with, the other relatives, and they are putting on shoes and you are not given shoes. The moment they would be given nice things, you didn't receive a nice thing. That thing got into you. Your parents, they used to, love one of your sisters or love one of your brothers, and you didn't receive that love. So you grew anger, you grew pain, you grew hurt, you grew kind of emotions that you did not express. So you felt a lot of pain from within. But because that is what was there and it was out of your control, so you insisted and said, you know what? I'm not feeling bad about it. I'm okay. So as you continue growing, then the pain that, those hurts that were there from then, now they start showcasing. Pole pole. They start coming out. And the way they're coming out is sometimes you just find yourself, you either pleasing people because you do not want people to go out of your way, or you're just this angry person. Have you ever met such angry people in organizations or on just along the streets? Somebody's just angry. Maybe let me say a typical example of a workplace. This person is always stone-faced. Like every time this person is just angry. And you could even be asking yourself, hey, chief, why are you always angry with people? What is always, what are we missing? Did I wrong you or something? You did not wrong them. It is the pain that was there before. Now, this pain is trying to come out in projected ways. You take a pen that belongs to them, that's an issue. You touch their bottle, that's an issue. So that is the way that trying to offload what happened back then. Now, that is one aspect of you building your emotional bank. The aspect of things that happened during your childhood that you kept actually, you didn't just keep them, but that was the only option for you to survive. So you kept them aside and, decided to move along with the current happenings at that particular time. Now, there's these other presenting issues that are happening as you continue with your normal life. Now, take a tentative example of being hurt. A boyfriend, a girlfriend walking out on you, or married couples. You have skirmishes in the house and things are not just working out. Somebody throws a word unknowingly. Somebody throws a word, and then because you feel bad and you're not able to express yourself, now remember, you hurt. This particular word did hurt you. You felt bad. I always tell my clients that there's no feeling like I'm feeling bad. Put a word to that feeling. If it's anger, that's an emotion. It's hurt, that's an emotion. Ashamed, it's an emotion. So when you're hurt, don't say I'm hurt, but no. It's hurting. No buts, no ifs, no nothing. Call a spade a spade. This is the only best way of dealing with emotions. So back to our particular example. So you're hurt, maybe by the words, or this person or your partner did a thing that did not really go well with you. So instead of solving this issue, or instead of talking it out in the best way you people know how to, handle issues from within your union, you keep it to the heart. For reasons being, you cannot express it. Or if you express yourself, then the other person will misinterpret your expression. So what happens? Once this person keeps the heart to themselves, now you start creating what I call an emotional bank. Now, when you create this, when you keep this to yourself, remember it was not solved. Now, that's unexpressed feelings, unfinished businesses. Now, you keep this to your heart, your brain, you tell your brain, now I don't want to deal with it. Your brain understands, opens a particular a cabinet in the deepest part of your unconscious brain, and then it's kept there. Another thing happens, you keep it. something again happens, you keep it. So the more you keep keeping these things, the more you start bottling up, the more you get pressured up. Take an analogy of a polythene paper, the small polythene papers. Now you put water in it, then you hold it like it, then this, it's bubbled up, it's so full, it's a lot of pressure, like the water is really inside, and it's really just waiting for a particular acupuncture so that it starts releasing the pressure. Now the more your pressures are so much, then it's held together. Remember, that is that part of your brain. So what this water inside here are the emotions that you've always kept, the things that you didn't talk when you needed to talk, the situations you did not handle when you needed to handle, the things you did not refuse when you needed to refuse. Maybe for some reason you wanted to, you thought, not per se wanting, but for some reason you thought that keeping quiet was solving the situation, or you thought that if you kept quiet was handling the situation, was your own way of handling the situation. Unfortunately, that was not the right way of handling those situations. So back to the analogy of the paper bag. Now there's water inside, the pressure is too much. Any single drop, everything will go, will be the water will be splashed on the floor. If you don't drop that for the water to splash on the floor, then you can still do a puncture, a small puncture with just an item, just a pen like this. You do a small puncture. So when you do a small puncture to this particular polythene paper, then the water will have found a particular point to release, to come out. So the process of this water coming out is a projection. This pen, the puncture this pen is giving is an opportunity to express. So this is what happens. If something happens that reminds the brain that there was a particular thing that happened back then that kind of relates to what is happening right now, then you either go defensive or you just go ballistic on that issue. You will not be solving that particular issue there. You'll be solving that issue back then. Let me come back again to make it more clearer. The analogy of water. You just do a small puncture on the water, and then the water starts coming out. Remember, you've had issues in the past that you did not respond to. Somebody did hurt you. You didn't deal with it. You kept it and you said, you know what, I don't want to deal with it. Somebody told you or something that did bruise your self-esteem back then. You kept it. So today, somebody is telling you, let me give a typical example of maybe your dressing. Somebody tells you, oh, you're dressed so pathetic. Your dressing is so pathetic. You couldn't find something else to wear. So when this person tells you your dressing is pathetic, or not pathetic sounds so bad. Let me give a rather a warmer word, like, oh, your dressing is color clashed. Yes, your dressing is color clashed, or your dressing is so creased. You didn't iron your dressing, so it's so creased. Of course, it is creased, and maybe you could also see it's creased. But the way this person is telling you, him reminding you that your clothes is creased in the middle of people, maybe you've gone to work, and they're telling you this where people are going to look at you. Maybe they said it when you're only the two of you. But your problem is not being told that your cloth is creased. Remember, this could be your friend that, hey, Dorothy, where Nguo zako leo hata hukupiga pasi. That friend is just trying to tell you that next time usichome, like unachoma picha. But you, because you had been bruised back then, your esteem had been bruised back then when somebody told you something about your dressing, you will not be addressing this particular situation, or rather this particular, the present, which is your clothes being creased. You'll be addressing that. So hii ya kukrease, hii ya nguo yako kukua crease, you'll be keeping it and then addressing that. So the more situations keep happening, you don't deal with the present situation. Your brain automatically and quickly looks for a resemblance, a similar situation that happened from at the back part of your brain. It's looking for it. So that is what you'll be responding to, and not this particular situation. So when you find yourself in such a situation, you'll be someone that is not solving issues. You'll be someone that, this happens, you open your box, you solve that one, and then you keep this other one. So your emotional bank is always replenished. Always replenished. So until you decide to work in your unsubconscious mind, and your emotions that are unsolved, then you'll keep bleeding on people who are not responsible for the things that happened before. You'll keep bleeding and blaming people who are not even in any way connected to what happened back then, or to what is even happening right now. So back to our children. Yes, as we interact with people outside, we go through a lot of situations. We go through a lot of things. But the question is, are you going to look for a particular situation, a particular reason in the house to project? A child is going to come home. Maybe they've lost if those that are in the boarding, lost an item or two. What are your words? Are your words going to reflect your emotional state, or your words are going to be, handling that situation there and then? They've lost a pair of shorts, pair of pants. Are you going to address the pair of pants, or are you going to address your financial situations? Mark the words. As a father, as a mother, your child is supposed to do 1 or 2, 3 things, and the question is, if they don't do that, are you going to address that situation there and then? Or is your brain going to address your emotional state? Are the situations going to give an opportunity to express your emotional state, or the situation is going to be handled there and then? Remember, anything that is happening to us as a people now, these are things that happened between the age of 2 to the age of 20. Those are the manifestations that we are all seeing now. So anything or any word that we are going to tell our children as parents, or even as guardians, or even the caregivers, what we are going to tell these children, these are what they'll carry and reflect in their adulthood. So if you like your emotional state, the question is, or if you don't like your emotional state, the question is, would you like your son, your daughter, your niece, your nephew, or that child you're staying with to be in the same state that you're in. Question 2. If you do not like the kind of situation, emotional state, or the mental state that you are in, what are you doing about it? These emotional banks that are unhandled will always come up as anger, will always come up as a feeling of unworthiness, a feeling of incomplete, people pleasing, relying on external validations, low self-esteem, causes anxiety attacks. You'll always be, lack of confidence in your own self, insecurity within yourself. It comes with a lot of things. So if you're insecure as a parent, if you're having anxiety attacks as a parent, if you're having panic attacks as a parent, have you sat down to try and find out where are these anxiety attacks coming from? Where are my fears coming from? Why do I do things and I'm not even comfortable in the way I do them? I'm not even sure of how I do things. Yet you are a mother. Yet you are a father. You are a caregiver. So the moment you're not able to track, then somehow these are what you're transferring. These are what you're transferring unconsciously to your children. If you're timid, your child will start being timid. If you're anxious, somehow this anxiety, you'll transfer it to your child. So it is very, very important as a parent to start emptying your emotional bank. The one thing, or rather the one way of trying to empty your emotional bank is dealing with things there and then. 1. 2. Calling these things by names. Calling these emotions by names. Referring to these emotions how they are. If somebody hurt you, typical example of a relationship, you break up with someone and then you start saying like, we've broken up, but hata afadhali ameenda. You're numbing that pain. You're telling the brain, do not feel the pain. You're telling the brain, do not understand the pain. You're telling your brain, do not accept the pain. You're telling your brain, no, it is not painful. You're convincing your brain otherwise. The brain is very important. The brain is very clever. You convince it it's not pain. It will sieve this that you're telling it that you're convincing it that is not pain. It will keep it, and then it will give you the aspect that you need. That is the I'm okay part. So when the brain gives you the I'm okay part, now you start moving like I'm okay. The heart is kept. And then one day, just one particular day, something will happen. And the brain will be quick enough to open that cabinet and drop it on you. You will not have healed. So when it is a hurtful situation, call it hurtful situation. Feel the hurt. Sit in the pain. Accept the pain. However good or however mild, bad, whichever rate you can put it. But first, sit in the pain, accept the pain. Tell your brain, yes, I've been hurt. And then now when you start convincing yourself otherwise, your brain will have known and will have registered this as a hurt. And so next time when you face such a situation or a situation that is almost a replica to that, you will not be on the defensive side, but your brain will have will have been accustomed to such situations. and then you'll be able to you'll be able to decide on what is what is supposed to be done at that particular time. But if it is not solved, then your brain will register it as a threat, and then you will be defensive. Automatically your words will always be like, no, that one I can't, iyo staki, iyo, such kind of words. But if you're able to deal with it, then in the next time that thing happens, or a particular thing happens, you're able to decide what to do and how to do it. But if it's not, if that particular situation is not healed, then your brain will always register it as a threat and automatically builds a defense. So that is what I wanted us to remember as parents today, that anything that we're going to do, anything that we're going to tell our children now that they're at home, those that are, the teenagers, those that are still young, remember, anything that happens here will translate to who you are today. So if you love who you are today, then do that to the children. If you do not love your the kind of person, not per se the kind of person or the kind of personality, but if you do not like the kind of things that you portray, anger, bitterness, anxieties, those kind of things, if you do not like them about you, then work on them. Or be yourself. Be emotionally aware of yourself. You can do these activities. You can start journaling anything that happens to you, and how you react. Now when you sit back and start coming back to your senses, you can start journaling. Just journaling is writing down what you feel, or rather how your day has been, any altercations you had with somebody, or particular anything that drew your attention, and how you reacted to that a particular thing that happened. Then that means you'll be able, that will help you get in touch with your emotions. Then you'll be able to understand when something happens, the last time this thing happened, this is how I reacted, and these were the results. So you be able to tell yourself, no, I'm supposed to be reacting in this particular way. If you're having anxiety attacks that are on and off, do a breath work. Breath work is, you can do that 4 to 5 times for you to feel a little bit better. You can do it as many times as you can. It could be whether you're in a workplace, or you're at home, or you're in the middle of a conversation, a heated conversation for that matter. Do the breath work, breathe in and out, hold for 5 seconds, or if you can't hold for 5 seconds, hold for 3 seconds. Then do it at intervals, and then you'll automatically start feeling the relaxation, because your brain will be accepting enough oxygen, and then gives you the relaxations that you need as a person. So that's also a technique for those that having anxieties. For those that wants to start getting in touch with your emotions, I implore you to start journaling. Journaling is very, very important. It has helped a lot of people, and a lot of my clients. Journal. Again, before you respond, this is another technique. Before you respond to a particular phenomenon, before you respond to a particular situation, I would employ you first to breathe. If somebody, you're in the middle of somebody tells you something, breathe first. Breathe and then respond. By the time you're breathing and holding a breath for a minute or so, you're giving your brain to wrap your head around what has been asked or what has been said. Then you'll be able to know how to respond to that particular question. Instead, if you respond almost immediately in the midst of the rage, then you're only adding to your emotional bank, and you're not releasing a thing. You're defending, because your brain registers that particular thing as an attack. So you're defending yourself and you're not responding to that particular situation. So when something happens in the middle of a conversation, you are in the office and a question is asked, before you respond, breathe. It will help you. That's another technique that you can also use to maintain your pressures. And then again, take a time alone. You're at home and you just feel your head is bubbling up, you're looking at everything and nothing seems to be working out. Take time alone. And in the process, that is, if you've never started meditating, then that's an aspect of meditation. Take time alone, either with it, what your spirit loves, that is your spiritual self, what your spiritual self loves. If it's praying, if it is listening to cool music, if it's listening to any particular music that soothes your soul at that particular moment, or if it's dancing, do something for your own self. That one lowers down your self-defense, because now your brain will be trying to register that now you are an okay person. It doesn't see anything as a threat. Now it's seeing, because your spiritual self will be getting soothed. And remember, these three people are very, very important because they coordinate. There's the mental person, then the spiritual person, then there's the physical person. So when one person is messed out, the rest are messed out. Remember, get it right. When one person among the spiritual self, the physical self, and the mental self, if the mental self is messed up with, if you're having issues to deal with in your head, then you'll automatically feel you're tired. That is your physical body giving in. And then you don't feel like, sometimes you don't even feel like praying, you don't feel like going to church, you don't feel like interacting with people. Your spiritual self is also giving in. But if your mental self, or the mental space is active, utajipata hata kama umechoka namna gani, you're able to tell yourself, you can do this. Now that's your mental self. It's pushing both the spiritual self and the physical self. So these three people have to work hand in hand. If one is tired, if one is tired, the rest will be tired. If the spirit is tired, the physical body and the mental will just also get tired. So that's why I'm trying to say that's also another technique. You can get a time alone to feed the spiritual person. Then once you fed the spiritual person, somehow you'll start finding yourself back to life. So we've talked about journaling, we've talked about breath work, we've talked about this taking time alone, which is part of meditation. And then again, another technique that I would also want us to employ, especially in this period of time that things are not going well in the country and we also have our children back home. Before you make any decision, before you do anything in a haste, take between 8 to 24 hours to think about that particular decision. Take between 8 to 24 hours. People always say sleep over it. Sleeping over it would literally mean that your brain has time to sieve this information. Is it a threat? What is the long-term benefit? So once your brain is able to settle down on this particular decision that you want to make, by the time you'll be taking the step in the next day, after between the 8 to 24 hours, you'll find that the decision, whatever you'd have responded jana, the other day, is very different from the answer that you're going to give today, or from the response you're going to give today. So it is very, very important, again, before you make any particular decision. If you're always feeling suicidal, by the way, if you're always having the suicidal thoughts, please, the thoughts are always overwhelming. That I know. I can imagine sometimes how it feels when you are alone. One, major thing, seek help immediately. And again, another thing, always remind yourself to take time before you make a decision. Between 8 to 24 hours, you're good to go. You'll be able to realize that, the decision that you'll make tomorrow after those particular hours, and the decision you'd have made there and then will be totally different, because your brain will be able to settle down and look at it and choose the best out of the juice that it will have squeezed out of that decision that you're supposed to make. So yes, so that was for today. Important thing, the important take homes are: ensure your emotional state, the things that you've bottled for a while, do not bleed on the people that were not involved in these hurtful situations. Bleeding would come in terms of anger outbursts. Bleeding would come in terms of bitterness. Bleeding would come in phases of moody. Bleeding would come in phases of anxiety. Bleeding would come in a number, the plethora of phases that the bleeding or your emotional state would show. So when you feel you're overwhelmed, take time. But again, if again feel so much overwhelmed, always kindly seek a therapist, seek a counselor. Do not keep swallowing maramoja every now and then, yet it is an emotional situation or a mental situation that needs a counselor. So kindly also look for a counselor of your choice if you don't have one. But again, you can always reach out so that we can find an amicable way to talk about it, and find situation and find solution or to the particular situation that is happening. Remember, it is always said that a problem shared is a problem half solved. It's because me as a counselor, I have no vested emotions in whatever you're going through. So it means that anything that I'll tell you is from a point of where I'm seated and not where you're seated. Yes, I'll see the world from your point of view, but still I'll also see the world from my point of view at this other side of the river. So as I see your issues from your point of view, I'll also be seeing them from this other side of view, and again we'll always be coming up with the particular solutions and how we can go about the situations that are you're going through. And the objective is always to try and restore you as a person. The objective is always to try and restore your life and restore your person, you as the person, back to who you're meant to be, and not the mask that you're giving people. You're giving people this mask, yet the real sense, the mask is this: you're crying from within. So that is all I wanted to say for today. Thank you so much for watching. So any question from you that you might want to be responded to? Bambi, karibu sana. Piloi, thank you. Ogondi, thank you so much. Fred Ogonji, thank you. Any question that you might think we need to respond to? I'm giving a chance on how to respond to situations there and then. We call it the here and now dealing with situations. Somebody steps on you, deal with the situation of being stepped on, and not looking for a situation that did hurt you in the past, opening that bank and coming to answer coming up with an answer from the past to respond to this particular action of being stepped on, and keeping the pain that this being stepped on has cost you now. So instead of removing from the past and removing working or putting it aside, you're removing it and replacing it. So you somehow ensure that your emotional bank is kept intact. So we want to learn on how to deal with that situation and deal with it and let it go. So any concern, any question? Okay, no question. Thank you so much for watching. See you again in our next live. But again, still remember my last words. Remember, our self-esteem masterclass is also coming in. Let us work on those self-resilience. Let us work on self-trust, and let us work on your self-autonomy. Those are those are definitions of self-esteem as per Nathaniel Brandon. I love Nathaniel Brandon's definition of self-esteem: your self-resilience, ability to bounce back when you're going through a situation, and then again self-trust. How much do you trust your own self as a person? And then self-autonomy. Are you capable of making decisions by your own self and not seeking other people's opinion, especially the decisions that affect you as a person? The class, as I said again earlier, the class is not just for you, but again the class is also good as a parent, for you as a parent. Then it will also help you know how to handle the children, because remember, self-esteem of a child starts when they are at the age of 3 years. So there are things as a parent, when you're not healed, when you have baggages, when you have issues by your own self, then you'll be bleeding. As you're bleeding on these children, you're messing up with their self-esteem. You're making them question their cognitive abilities. So once you start making them question their cognitive abilities, these children will not be able to trust themselves. Their autonomy will have been messed up. They're not able to respect their own, or even trust their own decision in their own self in the long run.